Hello and welcome to The Man Who Kept Dying. I hope you're doing well wherever you're based, whatever time it is for you. In today's video, let's explore chapter 24 of the novel The Man Who Kept Dying. Chapter 24 is titled Louis, and it is based on, as usual, an experience of mine. In chapter 24, the main character of the novel, Mika, is being shown what a potential future could be lying ahead for him. He actually gets to fully experience and be immersed in that future through the viewpoint of someone who is not him, but with whom he is interacting as Mika. And of course, because it is in the future, Mika has physically changed a little. So he is surprised to see a version of him that is yet to know. This was in relation to the previous chapter. If you have not watched this video about chapter 23, Time, I recommend you watch it first. I know it's a slightly long video, but it really explains the concept of time as described in the novel. And essentially, the fact that as Mika is having this conversation with the central point of consciousness, the central point of consciousness wants to show the flexibility of time to Mika by showing him a potential future. What happens in the novel is that Mika gets to see the story unfold from the viewpoint of another character, and towards the end of the chapter gets to see his own perspective of it too. So he gets to see both perspectives. Following that chapter, when there's a bit of a debrief between Mika and the central point of consciousness, the central point of consciousness explains to Mika that that encounter was really important for both Mika and the other character whose name is Louis, and that they both will actually gain something from that specific encounter. Mika questions what happens to Louis after that encounter, and the central point of consciousness goes on to explain that everything has happened to Louis because Louis basically had his own destinies in his own hands, and from very positive outcomes to less positive outcomes is what has happened to Louis. The true story behind this chapter is that actually I was going to an event when I was living in the UK. An event was taking place in London. The plan was simple. It was a 2-day event. So I would go by train to London, central London, and I had withdrawn money, or withdrawn some cash to pay for a cab in the evening, so I did not have to walk back home. I wasn't living too far away from the train station at the time, but it would still be like a 25-minute walk. So depending if the day has been really tiring or not, sometimes it would be easier to just sit at the back of a cab and get driven back home. Or sometimes I would just say, you know what, it's okay, I'm going to walk. Unfortunately, the weather forecast wasn't so great. So I remember also withdrawing cash with keeping in mind that it would be pouring down water as I'm walking back home in the evening for the next 2 days. So it would probably be easier to just get a cab and not be drenched. The first day, as I go to the event, my train is delayed. Or the train I'm supposed to take is being delayed. It happens, and in those moments I tend to be very calm about it. And by the way, this event took place when it was in 2019, I believe. I can't remember exactly which month, spring or summer 2019. So the train is delayed, and I'm thinking, all right, great, I'm going to miss the start of the conference, but I cannot make the train go any faster. As I get to London, I go on the tube, and I think I have a couple of connections to make to get to the location of the event. I'm standing in the middle of the tube. It's about 9:30 a.m, so the tube is a bit quieter than it would have been if I'd caught my earlier train. And I'm sort of always in my own thoughts, so I don't necessarily listen to music or look around or read a book. I tend to be, if I'm traveling as and when, just like in my own thoughts or observing my environment but being very calm. being very much in touch. It's almost like a strange meditative moment for myself. And I hear the door open between two of the different carriages. And as I'm standing sort of in the middle of the carriage, I can see someone who looks very scruffy and who starts to make an announcement about the fact that they would like people to give him a bit of cash because they're going through a complex situation and this and that. I quickly scan the person and I see that he's talking to tourists, and of course tourists, they don't necessarily speak English that well, or they don't necessarily care. And to me, not that I do not want to help people in need, I actually do it more often than not. It's always difficult to make sure you're helping someone who really is in need, as opposed to being scammed, because that can happen too. It has happened to me in the past, and I'm always careful. I'm always trying to get a sense of who I'm helping, and sometimes I choose not to help if I'm in doubt. So I really try to listen to my heart and my feelings about the person, and if I'm in a position to help, of course I always try to give a little something if I can. I remember that person coming looking very scruffy, and actually I'm thinking they do look legit, because sometimes there are people who are asking for money, but you look at them and you're like, okay, what's the real situation there? Anyway, no judgment being passed on. When you live in big cities, there are lots of scams happening. I've seen it when I was living in Spain. I've seen it when I was living in different cities. So trying to get that judgment. And I see that person walking past, literally holes in the trainers, wearing like grey sweatpants and sweaters, and you can see quite dirty. Literally the guy was really projecting the image of having slept roughly recently and not really being in a great shape. And he was quite young, probably was, I would say, mid-20s, maybe early 30s at the latest. And of course, he has his pot, like a plastic cup that he gives to people, and some people are just putting like a coin, other people nothing, not even reacting or looking at him. And he gets closer to the center of the carriage where I'm standing, and I see another businessman standing there. And the businessman has got like this very thick wallet that he takes out of his suit, which looks like a very expensive suit. And that businessman, I don't know, probably was in his 50s. And what I see are lots of banknotes in the wallet. And I'm like, oh, maybe he's going to give something like quite important to the guy. And he doesn't actually, he unzips it and he puts like a £2 coin into the cup of the homeless person. And again, I'm passing no judgment, If you're in a position to help, do. If you don't want to, don't. You have your own judgment about those type of situations. And as he gets closer to us, he keeps repeating, like, if you have a bit of cash and so on, he'd be very happy, if you could give some to him. And the first thought that comes to my mind is, well, I don't have any cash on me. For whatever reason, I'm thinking along those lines. Until I realized, because to be frank with you, I sort of never carry cash with me. So it's always difficult. And that's why sometimes when I see those situations, I'm trying to see if I can help by sort of buying some food or something a bit different than just giving cash. But in this instance, I get sort of like an autocorrect in my mind instantly, and a voice that says, Vincent, you have cash with you. And I fumble into one of my pockets and I'm like, oh yes, I've got a £20 note in my pocket. So I think about it for a second and I'm thinking, actually, do I part with all that cash or do I not part with all that cash? Because that's a lot of money and I've never given that much to people. I have sometimes given like up to £10, but I've never given like more than that. I decide on the spot, as I see the guy, I said, I'm going to give him the £20. It doesn't matter, It doesn't matter if it rains as I walk back home. I'm going to walk back home. Obviously, I can sense, I can see, he needs that a lot more than I do. Me, I'm going to be fine. Worst case scenario, I'll call someone when I get at the train station and they'll pick me up if it's really, really raining badly. So as he approaches, I take the note and I put it in his cup. The reaction he gave me back will forever stay with me in my heart. I gave it in absolute, not compassion, not pity, simply, hey, listen, if I look at the situation, a year ago I was dying, now I'm really good, I've got a really good professional situation, I've turned my life around. So in a way, I want to share that with you, that money, and you do whatever you want with it. We'll have no judgment about it. That's the only energy I put into that exchange, if you like. But I remember his eyes, like he had to look twice at the amount of money I had just given to him. And he stopped. And the first thing, he looks at me and he said, wow, thank you. This means so much to me, you have no idea. And I replied to him with a smile, because in those moments, maybe, it doesn't really translate through the videos, but I'm quite a shy person. You might see me in the street having a chit chat with people and looking quite extrovert, but I'm more of an introvert, in truth being told. So I'm always like sensing what the person's going to say first before I can react. And I remember his reaction being like, really, thank you, like this means so much to me. And I replied to him like, listen, if it means a lot to you, then I'm happy I can give it to you. And he stops and he says, what's your name? And I say, my name is Vincent. He says, oh, my name is Luis, I'm Portuguese. And we just start having a conversation. And he explains to me that it's very rough, the situation for him at the minute, that he came to the UK with the hope of, realizing a better life or manifesting a better life than he had when he was in Portugal. That did not turn out to be okay. And now he's going through quite a tough time and a tough situation. And basically me giving him that much money on that day, at that moment, was helping him, because he said, now I can just go and enjoy my day. I don't have to do that for the rest of the day. It's actually very devaluing and very difficult to do that. People don't realize what it takes to actually be begging for money, and it's not a situation I wish to anyone. At that moment, I realized that that's a good thing. I gave him that much money because actually he really truly needed it. I could feel it was not a scam. I was really truly helping somebody, at least for the day. That's the impression I got, that at least for him, he didn't need to do anything else or any more of that for the day. He could just go and enjoy his day. And I remember saying to him, if that's what makes you happy, just go and enjoy your day. In a way, it's on me, but you owe me nothing. Just go and enjoy your day. And we continue just to have a quick chit chat, and he really says, thank you. We arrive at the next station, and he says, I'm going to get out there. Can I just give you a big hug, because that's so important what you did to me today, or what you did for me today. So I give him a big hug. We exchange looks, and I remember he steps out on the platform, and the last thing he says to me is, Vincent, I will pray for you. Sincerely, I will pray for you. And again, I was so touched about that, because at that moment I thought, and it was making me emotional just to think about the moment again. But I was like, I should be the one praying for you, my friend. Like literally, like you have nothing, and yet you are still going out of your way to say, I will pray for you, just because you helped me today have a better day. So for me, that was a very touching human moment. And that's the reason why I've wanted to include it in the novel, as a way of showing that if you turn your life around, you might have a more positive outlook on life, and you might find yourself in a position where you help people a bit more and so on. But there's an energy exchange there. Because in a way, I received a lot of gratitude, and I gave him freedom for the day. So that was quite important, and I'm sure at a higher soul level that definitely was something. Maybe it was agreed, maybe not, it's just an encounter, but it just happened. And at that moment I also realized that perhaps my train got delayed for that very specific reason, that I had to meet Luis and that I had to part with my money just to help him get a better day, because nobody perhaps would have done so on that same day, or perhaps somebody would have, who knows. The interesting part of the story, because I'm not yet finished with that, I go to the event, and at the event I managed to not be too late, actually, for some reason. But what I discovered at the event, they give us sort of like virtual money. So with the welcome pack, you've got like a bit like Monopoly banknotes, you know, they're fake. But with that money, if you attend different workshops or if you do different actions, you do interviews and this and that, they give you a bit more money. So in a way, the more you participate in the conference or the more active you are, the more money you get. Towards the end of the day at the conference, I just go to the part where basically you can spend the money you've earned for the day. And there are lots of goodies around there. So, you know, like from plush toys that you can bring back to your kids, to notebooks, to pens and these kind of things. But what I see are umbrellas. And actually, let me go collect the umbrella. Because to this day, I still have it. And it's a wonderful umbrella. Of course, I need to do that. You're not supposed to open an umbrella in a house if you're superstitious. Skip that part. Poof, ouch. But basically, there it is. That umbrella I was able to actually use when I came back home. And actually, it was really raining. That has been so useful. And also, it's a very sturdy one. So I've had it for years, and it's always been useful to have it. So, quite interestingly, I smiled when I collected the umbrella, because I was like, all right, maybe I've parted with my money and I will not get, you know, a cab ride back home tonight, but at least I've got an umbrella. And this umbrella, as I said, has been very sturdy, very useful, been a good companion whenever it rains for the past few years. And I saw it as a sign of the universe, saying, you know, sometimes you may think that you're doing an action and basically it seems like you've lost something because you offer it to somebody else, but the universe right away rewards you with something else. So yes, the umbrella may not be worth £20, but who cares? What's important, Luis got to have a free day and did not have to beg all day. I was protected from the rain and the elements when I walked back home. Happy days. Coming back to the novel, if you read it or if you've read it, you will notice that it's not really £20 that I'm using in the novel. I'm using £50 instead of 20. And you may wonder why I decided to change the sum of money. Well, first of all, it's a fiction. So yes, it is inspired by my own life experiences, stories and events, but because it's a fiction, I can play with it a bit. And the reason why I decided to make it £50 in a novel instead of £20 was to make it more impactful for Mika, to see that one day in the future he might be happy parting with what may seem to be like a lot of money, but he will gain something unexpected in return. And in a way, if you give, you get something back. That's the idea behind it. So if you do notice the discrepancy between what I've just shared with you and the novel, there's nothing more than that. Just a fiction, so I can have a bit more leeway and freedom to make some ideas more impactful to people or to the readers. As simple as that. So that is the true story behind the chapter 24, Luis. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the green umbrella. And of course, you know, if you have any comment or if you like to share similar stories of yours, please do. It's always interesting to know when we can make a difference to other people in life. Personally, I find it to always be quite interesting and quite heartwarming too. Those types of situations And I know it's difficult because there's a part of me that would love to help everyone all the time. There's another part that knows that people also have to go through their own journeys, and sometimes it is through their own choices at a more soul level that they've decided to experience it that way. Anyway, I'm not going to make this video any longer. As I said earlier, I hope you enjoyed it, and please do share if you have any comment or any stories, similar stories to share. It's always interesting. You give something, you receive something back as a result. I found it fascinating on that day. Have a good rest of the day, of the week, of the evening, whatever time of the day it is for you. I wish you well, and of course, until next time, stay conscious, my friend.